It's the 24th episode of the WWJ Industry Connected Podcast, a monthly podcast devoted to the groundwater industry produced by the National Groundwater Association. I'm your host, Mike Price, and today we're joined by Ben Freck of NGWA's Government Affairs. We preview the upcoming 2026 NGWA fly-in in Washington, D.C., and the key issues that members will address with federal decision makers. We welcome Ben Freck of NGWA's Government Affairs to the podcast for 2026 here in January. Ben, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, Mike? How's it going, buddy?
Hey, good to see you. We're on here to talk about the fly-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we turn a page into 2026 and the fly-in coming up March 24th through the 25th in Washington, D.C., and we want to hear from you on the issues that you got planned for attendees to make to DC. So let's start out with the changes to geothermal tax credits, where things stand, and what this means for our industry, contractors, and customers.
Yeah, of course. Last year, the geothermal credits, the residential, completely expired at the end of the year, and the commercial geothermal credits will basically be getting reduced up and for the next, at this point, I think it's around 4 or 5 years. This was a piece of Trump's big, beautiful bill. And while there was a lot in that bill that did really help support the industry and supported business overall in the country, that was one aspect, the sunsetting of geothermal credits, the residential credits that really potentially could hit our industry hard. I don't need to tell anybody who's actually listening to this podcast how important geothermal is to our drillers and to our manufacturers and suppliers at that. It's really, geothermal is really an issue that touches each of our sectors, from our scientists and engineers to our suppliers, manufacturers, contractor. Everybody can really have a space in the geothermal industry. So when those credits were sunsetted, it was obviously a big issue of concern for us. So moving forward, it's going to be kind of a two-pronged approach about how to handle that. One would obviously be to get these credits reinstated. That is going to be an incredibly hard thing to do, especially in this mid-year election with the administration who just, got rid of these credits. But it's not impossible. And there has been some talk of some tax bill fixes and other avenues that might at least extend the geothermal tax credit, the residential ones, to come back. But again, that's somewhat unlikely at this point, and that's going to be difficult. So what we're going to be also looking at is other options to keep the price of geothermals down and competitive for residential homeowners who might want to invest in these. And that can include everything from what they call safe harbor tables, which basically provide tax credits to the manufacturers who produce the geothermal equipment in the country. And when there's going to be more geothermal equipment produced in the country, they'll basically get a tax credit and a tax incentive to do that, which is a saving they can then pass on to the customers, which obviously helps our manufacturers, contractors, and our clients, who this is about at the end of the day. So the first thing on the agenda is definitely going to be geothermal, and looking at ways to get that, if not reinstated, find other ways to provide some tax relief to this very important industry.
Great. Yeah, I know the geothermal industry is, circling the wagons and, for the new year, and
Yeah.
lot
And
on the horizon with
yeah,
leasing options and
yeah, and again, that was going to be my other point is, this necessarily isn't going to be a problem that's necessarily going to be solved only legislatively or regulatory in DC. These companies, they're creative, if anything. So I think what we're going to see are a lot of new options for residences to buy these systems, not necessarily even buy them, but lease them. Communities come together to buy systems on a long-term payment plan. Because these companies in the geothermal industry, they saw every day how important these tax credits were and how these kind of financing options were to getting people to kind of pull the trigger on purchasing a system. So I think they're going to keep working to make sure that those kind of financing options, those kind of we're not having to invest everything all up front. Opportunities are going to be there for homeowners, because they saw just how popular that was. If people got a little bit of an incentive to go through with the system, that they'd usually get them on board, which helps the industry, it helps the environment, and it's just a win basically for everybody involved.
Absolutely. Oh, and a quick plug for geothermal. Waterworld
Yeah,
Journal.
go geothermal.
Yeah,
How's that for a plug?
yeah, that too. The January 2026 issue has part of a three-part series on data centers and groundwater, and part one focuses on cooling methods, and one of which is geothermal systems. So look for that in your January issue of Waterworld Journal.
I will look for that.
There you go. Please do. The rollout of new workforce development initiatives affecting groundwater contractors, manufacturers, and suppliers. So, workforce development, the industry's largest issue as of today. What can you tell us about these initiatives on workforce
Well,
development?
so this will largely be something that's now more about, again, this is kind of stems off the one big beautiful bill, which is about, allocating, making sure that the federal government, now that they're kind of, their hands are untied from a lot of their funding, of where that can go in workforce development, where it can go in apprenticeship programs, where it can go in job training programs, that they're at least preserving some of that pie for the industry and for training initiatives within the industry. The one thing that, I mentioned, the one big beautiful bill did a lot for this industry, and the businesses that we work with, and one of that is in the workforce and training sector,
Yeah.
because what it did was unleashed a lot of money that can go towards training programs, in-house training programs, community college courses, apprenticeship programs, CDL licensing, and that kind of thing. So now what we're going to be working on is really making sure that even more of that money is available and can easily flow to things like CDL training, safety training, and everything kind of under that umbrella. Because right now, while there was policy in there that will release those funds or make it more easy to release those funds, there's still a couple issues when it comes to the type of training programs, the size of those training programs, especially. There's some numbers on there where training programs have to be certain size, they have to be connected to certain institutions, which we'd still like to see loosened, because most of our businesses are small businesses in this industry. So what we're going to be looking at is ways to kind of even make that money more available for smaller businesses and smaller kind of communities where a lot of our industry serves.
Hmm. Just curious, do you get questions, from members on workforce development issues lately, since the big beautiful bill has been passed?
Yes, I would say next to the explosion of data centers, it's probably the thing that I'm most asked about. And it's a lot of it has to do um, with funding becoming available for in-house training programs, for apprenticeship programs, for things like CDL licensing, and kind of restrictions being taken off of that, especially for things like OSHA trainings and safety trainings. So yeah, I get it quite often, and I mean, again, anybody listening to this podcast understands that workforce development, job training, and not just workforce development, but getting people into the industry
Yeah.
is one of the things that we endlessly, and I mean endlessly, struggle with and endlessly fight to support. So I think when they saw, like in the one big beautiful bill, some sort of movement getting made, like 529 college savings plans can now be
Yep.
used for training programs. They can now be used for apprenticeship programs. They can be used for in-house trainings and online trainings and all these other issues. I think most folks, saw that as a big win, which it is. But now it's about teaching our membership how they can access that, how they can utilize those funds, and making those funds even more available by doing things like, cutting the size of trainings down of what will qualify, cutting the size of the business down of what will qualify, and making sure that this funding is really available to more of our membership, which is, again, it can be largely small businesses to medium-sized businesses.
So that clarity on all that there, you're working on that with attendees at the fly-in.
Yeah. So that's going to be one of our big pillars for sure. And again, it is every year at the fly-in, but largely our when we go in there, obviously we lobbied hard for these things to be included in the one big beautiful bill, but in the past years, it's always kind of been this vague kind of, we weren't quite sure what we could get or how that money would get accessed. And I mean, we've been working on the 529 thing for quite a bit, for quite a long time, at least 4 years,
Yeah.
where we've been kind of pushing to have at least that money be available for job specific training, safety training, online training, apprenticeships, and all that kind of thing. So now it's, I think it's kind of taken a different form where it's, we've gotten a lot of what we wanted. We've gotten more actually than what we've wanted, but now it's just about making sure that we're going to be able to access that money, and that the businesses of our size are going to be able to access that money.
Okay. Well, we'll be reporting on coverage of the fly-in and yeah, providing clarity on things for members and the industry at large on
Yeah.
workforce development initiatives moving forward. Um, the federal activity on PFAS cleanup, monitoring, and liability issues. So our current president, Seth Kellogg, PG, is an expert in this field of PFAS. So what can you tell us there on PFAS?
Yeah, so this administration's approach to PFAS has been pretty moderate, to be honest. Excuse me. They have through the EPA, they have extended timelines for. They have, I mean, they've written to basically get rid a lot of the new PFAS regulations, and the ones that are still on the books, they've kind of extended the timeline to get systems up to date to deal with these things. For public systems, they've kind of given them more time. They're going to give them less money too. We should be clear about that, but they've also given them more time to come in compliance, which most public utilities, small and big, have been pushing for ever since the MCL was announced. Because
Hmm.
to get a lot of these systems online and into compliance is incredibly expensive, incredibly time intensive thing to do. So from a regulatory standpoint, they've been pretty moderate on the issue. But I think where we're going to start seeing issues, especially with our smaller community systems, that a lot of our members serve and where a lot of our members live, is going to be there likely going to be some cuts to the state drinking water funds in the coming years. I know they proposed cuts into the billions into those funds, and so I think when it comes to PFAS cleanup, PFAS, not just site cleanups, but also
Yeah.
getting into the compliance zone of that, it's going to start being a challenge because you're going to see a little bit less money in the state revolving fund grants, which a lot of these places are counting on to again to help fund their cleanups and to help fund their compliance with the new rules. So I think one thing that the administration is smartly doing is extending the timeline for compliance. But because they're not going to give these folks any more money to meet those timelines, they're actually going to give them less. So I think one thing we're going to be talking about at Fly-In when it comes to PFAS is keeping the money into keeping the money at least where it is in the state revolving funds,
Yeah.
as in with the rural water funds, to help these small systems reach compliance, because these small systems are always the ones that struggle the most. They're always the one who struggle the most with reporting compliance, not necessarily with water quality. It's just the compliance and the reporting of these things. So I think we're going to be pushing pretty hard on at least trying to keep that funding at the same level that it has been for the last year and not get cut. But I
Hmm.
think again, that's also going to be kind of an uphill battle, because right now, they're kind of in, cutting mode up in DC, I'd say.
Okay. And then lastly, the potential cuts to the National Groundwater Monitoring Network and USGS water programs. For viewers who aren't familiar with the Groundwater Monitoring Network, can you explain what it is, and then also, yeah, the potential cuts to the monitoring network and USGS water programs?
Yeah, so USGS, their Office of Water, is an incredible branch of the USGS, and one that NGWA has had a very close working relationship with for a very long time. They come speak at our fly-ins. We've employed multiple previous USGS employees. They support our research. They support our conferences. We work in tandem with them constantly. They're really a great organization, a very important one for groundwater. So the National Groundwater Monitoring Network, it is basically what it sounds like. It is a network of monitoring wells, help funded by the USGS, and they're help maintained by universities, localities, nonprofits, and everything in between that really help to monitor the health and the supply of our nation's groundwater. There's online tools where you can utilize these monitoring wells, and it's really meant to present a snapshot of the health of our nation's groundwater, which is an incredibly important resource. Speaking of Seth Kellogg, what she likes to say is that you can't manage what you can't monitor and you
Mm,
can't see and you don't know anything about, right?
right.
And so this is really our first line of defense of understanding what the nation's groundwater supply and the health of that groundwater looks like. And right now, they're very much under the microscope to be cut pretty drastically in the water, and the on the I'm sorry, the Office of Water there. Um, the administration is looking much more towards USG for the USGS, sorry, to be more involved in minerals, and that type of thing, and less in the water space. And so they're very likely, from everything that we've seen through budgets and just from talking to people, is that they're likely to see significant cuts. And the National Groundwater Monitoring Network has either been cut or basically stayed flat for the last whatever amount of years anyway. So it's not like it was something that was, getting a lot more money every year. It's been basically, running on neutral for the last 5 years anyways. This is something that, we always kind of fight for this when we go to fly in. We always kind of push for more funding, understanding that if it stays level, that's basically, a win to some
Yeah.
extent. But this year, I think we're going to really be upping the ante on this, and we're going to be making this a much bigger part of our agenda, because these cuts are very real. These cuts could really have a significant impact on groundwater, on the National Groundwater Monitoring Network. And it's one of those things also where, we're not quite sure that if it's cut, it would come back in any real significant way under a new administration or new Congress. Because it's not like something that was, supported through the roof before. It was something that was basically just maintained and funding was maintained. So the big worry here is that if this does get cut, funding is, drained by more than half. That's something we might not even be able to get back under
Mm,
a new administration or a new Congress. So I think our
okay.
fighting and our advocacy for the USGS will take a much more impassioned form this year. Because I think now people, it's one of those things where, we've just maybe taken it for granted, the fact that
Yeah.
it's going to be there, the fact that this monitoring network's going to be there, that we're going to be able to utilize it for everything we use it for. And so I'm hoping that will, potentially kind of light a fire under a lot of people to, get to DC and, fight for this network.
Absolutely. Yeah, in the pages of Waterworld Journal, we at times will share where the total number of monitoring wells it stands, because it's accessible to the public
Yeah,
naturally, and it's neat to see, incrementally, slowly but surely increasing here and there.
yeah, and the other part about that is, and it's not all the money in the world, and it's not like anybody's business completely depends on it. But those are local drillers who are drilling those
Yeah.
wells. You know what I mean? Those are local drillers who are maintaining those wells. Those are our suppliers who supply those wells. Those are
Yep.
manufacturers who make those wells and those pumps and everything else. So it's not like there's not a little bit of self interest too in keeping this network up. And again, it's not like no one's like hanging their hat on it, retiring off USGS contracts, but it does touch the industry in 100 different ways. So if there's anything that we should ever be fighting for at the federal level, to some extent, it should be this.
So Ben, what is this? How many flyings is this going to be for you?
I
2026,
think
yeah.
158. It feels like. No, I think this will be my sixth, maybe seven, six. I think I started doing fly-ins in 2020 was
Okay.
my first. So yeah, this will be my sixth fly-in, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And
which yeah,
what's your favorite part of organizing it and then boots on the ground? It's two whirlwind days for you, I know. But you do a great job of getting everyone ready, prepared, getting everyone there. And
it's probably making the name tags every year. That's probably no. No,
glamorous part of the
no,
job.
yeah, it really is the hardest part too. um, no, I'd say my favorite part of the year, and this happens every year, and it's always so exciting. Is we always have one day of like kind of getting together beforehand, and we usually have a speaker come in, we go over the policy stuff, and then we have a reception. And it's very nice to see it get the group back together, and usually we've just seen each other at Groundwater Week, so there's still like some energy going from that.
Sure.
But my favorite part of the year, every single year, is when we do our Hill Day visit, is when inevitably at some point our groups will just convene on the hill, not planned, but we'll just like meet each other like in a hallway of Cannon or a hallway of an office building or like in front of the Capitol. And you'll just have this like, quick meeting with you and your colleagues, in front of the Capitol building. And it's just kind of this cool moment where everyone's in their little suits and you know what I mean? We're all going from meeting to meeting and we're catching up, on what, how our meetings have been and, what the reception we've got. And we're just doing it in this, incredibly like majestic spot. And
Yeah.
it's just like bustling all around town. And that's when you kind of feel like, oh yeah, we are a part of this. Like we're supposed to be here. This is what we're here to do. Like, this is a good day. Like, we're getting something done. And it's always just a couple of moments like that where, we're again, like we're outside the Capitol, we're outside the House buildings, and, we're all just there, like, just chit chatting on our day of lobbying and, in this beautiful space. And it's just great. And inevitably it happens every year. And only in the past couple of years have I taken a moment and been like, this is cool. Like, this is awesome. Like, these people have come, they've taken off work, they've gotten out of their offices, they've got off their rigs, they took a flight here, they went to the dry cleaners, like, and now it's like, now we're all here doing what we're here to do, and it's great. Yeah, so it's always that moment every year that I look forward to.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a tried and true statement that we put out, but who speaks if we don't speak up for groundwater, who will?
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's it. Yeah. And well, that's the other thing is I think of every day, every time we're up there during our lobby day, I'm like, there is nobody because there's lobbyists everywhere. You can't walk for lobbyists in that town, obviously, but like we're the only people on the hill that day talking about what we're talking about, guaranteed. Like unless some of our other organizations are up there, like Water Systems Council, which often is too. But like, there's never more than like 40 people in the country talking about what we're talking about on the hill.
yeah,
So it's like that's also kind of an exciting part of it. It's like, we are a bit of an underdog. We are, a bit of a scrappy, organization when it comes, it's not like we're big pharma up there with 100 paid lobbyists, but we are able to get stuff done because we keep coming back every year and we maintain these relationships. So I kind of like to revel in that kind of status too, as kind of scrappy underdogs sometimes.
I love that. Heck yeah. Well, February 20th, just put it out there, is our early bird reg deadline for the fly-in. But registration will go all the way up until the event.
Yeah, but if you do register the day before, I will be furious. But I'll allow it, but I will be furious.
There's more online. Yeah, to register and for more info, ngwa.org/fly-in. Ben, anything else you want to leave us with?
No, I mean, again, I would just urge everybody, if you haven't come to Fly-In before, it really is a great event. There is a lot of support there. A lot of people feel a little intimidated coming to DC, doing the meetings, learning the policy. But one thing about Fly-In is there's always a group of veterans there, Fly-In veterans, who are always willing to go with you to meetings, who are always able to help you learn the policy issues, go with you to these meetings, these congressional and Senate offices, to make you kind of feel more, secure in talking about the issues. And there's just a lot of support there for you. We set all the meetings up if you want us to. We'll arrange your schedule. So there's nothing really you have to do other than show up, be willing to learn the issues, and be willing to talk about how important the industry is to the country. And if you have those two things, then you're set.
Thanks for watching and listening to the WWJ Industry Connected podcast. We'll be back next month with a brand new episode, so be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the major platforms, so it will be easy to find us. And visit waterworldjournal.com for the latest expert columns, feature articles, videos, and news covering the groundwater industry. So one more time for Ben and I, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.